Hello and welcome to Week in One. My name is Avi Mtila. Week in One is where we give you a roundup of the top news stories as well as some of the best interviews featured on eNCA in the past 7 days. The arrest of Atul and Rajesh Gupta in Dubai have sent shockwaves through the world. eNCA, in an exclusive story this week, revealed that South African authorities had been dragging their feet in cooperating with the UAE with regard to the extradition. An email from UAE authorities acknowledging the Red Notice inquiry concerning Atul and Rajesh Gupta dated the 28th of February this year. This is on the 1st of March, where they alerted South African authorities that they may have leads on the mentioned fugitives and requested both their fingerprints and photos to compare with available records. A while later, SA authorities, communicating among each other, note the Red Notice and the letter from the UAE from the 1st of March. They further note another letter from the UAE dated 14th of April. It's only on the 20th of May that another email is sent back with attachments of the required photos and fingerprints nearly 3 months later. While South African authorities seem to be dragging their feet with the extradition, this international law expert suggests that there's a desire from UAE authorities to extradite.
The extradition treaty between South Africa and the UAE was a long time in the making. But things ran very quickly at some point last year. You'll remember that the extradition treaty was signed, I think, around about June of 2021. And very soon thereafter, there was the exchange of instruments to actually ratify the treaty so that it entered into force in July. That's very, very speedy, particularly taking into account that countries like the UAE don't generally like to extradite and don't generally like to conclude extradition treaties. The fact that there's been arrest is a further indication that there is a desire on the part of the authorities to extradite.
While the lengthy extradition process unfolds, Professor Tladi suggests that the Guptas are most likely to remain in custody.
The critical question in whether or not to release an offender or a fugitive is whether that person is a flight risk. And it seems quite clear by the fact that they are fugitives, by the fact that they've been able to escape from here, that they are a flight risk. So that'll be an argument that would, I think, weigh in on any court to prevent that court from releasing the Gupta. So more than likely they would remain in custody. But also one can expect that they would mount a legal challenge against that. And by the way, every legal challenge that they mount stalls the process, and that's part of the reason why the process takes so long.
Authorities from both countries are engaging on the extradition process, and while the Guptas are expected to challenge this, South Africans hope for more urgency on the matter. There seems to be more questions than answers about the February 2020 theft at President Cyril Ramaphosa's Palapala Wildlife Farm. Former intelligence head Arthur Fraser accused the president of failing to report the alleged theft of large sums of US dollars as required by law. eNCA senior reporter Aisha Ismail compiled this report.
I want to assure you, comrades, that all this was money from proceeds from selling animals. I have never stolen money from anywhere, be it from our taxpayers, be it from anyone. I have never done so.
But nobody said the president was a thief. The question people want answered is about the unreported breach of security on the First Citizens farm and the substantial amount of foreign currency reportedly stored there.
Far too many questions remain unanswered. How much money was kept on the farm, and in what currency? How much of it was stolen? How did this foreign currency get into South Africa? How long was it stored on the president's property? Were the correct exchange control observed?
Steenhuisen, along with leaders of other political parties, are also questioning why the robbery, which took place 2 years ago, was not reported to SAPS. The UDM's Bantu Holomisa wants an independent investigation to be conducted by retired Constitutional Court judges into the allegations against the president.
He should go to a sabbatical leave for a few months, and then that the preliminary investigation be conducted by these judges. And upon finalizing that inquiry, the judges must send that document to the NPA for further deliberations or decisions. But otherwise, the allegations are serious, and we cannot rely on spinning all the time. The facts are there. Somebody must verify the authenticity or otherwise of those facts.
The Freedom Front Plus says it will support any investigation by the South African Revenue Services and the South African Reserve Bank.
This happened in 2020, so they should know whether he declared it or not. And in terms of the Reserve Bank, we have to ensure that all legislation when it comes to foreign currencies had been complied to. The President must set an example, and he must comply to all legislation. And if he did not, then he should be prosecuted.
The South African Reserve Bank says it's not their practice to comment on any investigations.
Thank you very much.
In the meantime, the President will have to prepare himself to be peppered with questions when he delivers his budget speech in Parliament later this week. Aisha Ismail, Cape Town.
The dramatic murder trial of former Orlando Pirates and Bafana Bafana goalkeeper Senzo Meyiwa continued this week in the High Court in Pretoria. The cross-examination of SAPS forensic officer and the first state witness, Thabo Mosia, continued, and a new docket has been brought into evidence that allegedly implicates those who were present in the house. eNCA Slim Asikana has more.
The existence of the 375 docket isn't a secret. Investigations into that docket conclude that there's a prima facie case against those who were in this house on the 26th of October 2014. According to Meyiwa's brother, this docket contains the truth.
Kodwa siyazi ukuthi kusini kunamaphoyisa afika lapha nezikhulu ezithile kwaqala kwabanje meeting ukuze kungashiwo iqiniso lokuthi usenzo wadubuleka ngephutha kade xabana noZandi ngoba iyona into esusa umsindo kade xabana noZandi kwasuka umsindo lapho ngalokho ngeke ngiye kuma details kodwa ke siyazi ukuthi kwase kufika izikhulu ezithile kwathiwa no lento ayigoqwe kuthiwa no kungena igebengu endlini zazobamba inkunzi wagcina usenze edubuleka kanjalo futhi amanga lawo siyazi futhi nokuthi kwa isini yaklinwa isini kunanomama nje sengizomusha ngoba sebemshilo bengathanda ukusho uMamphiri siyazi kudala ukuthi wafika lapha endlini waklina kahle kade esho nawe usayitsheni Msiya ethi akabonanga usenzo wawelapha lapha ngoba la wakhona kwakunegazi kodwa baklina.
According to one legal expert, it's unprecedented that there's two dockets opened for one murder, and both dockets paint two completely different scenarios about who killed Senzo.
The attorney of Ms. Khumalo was interviewed, Kelly Khumalo, and she's also said in this particular docket 636, an ID pilot was not held for the 5 accused. So there are doubts that are happening.
Kulu says the NPA has some explaining to do.
Why was the decision not followed? When that DPP made a decision that they must be charged, who interfered with that decision? And if there's interference from above, it's not good because, we need to have a justice system where everything is transparent. That is the importance of our democracy. So I think what will happen is we'll get an answer which will hopefully assist the NPA to have its integrity.
Court proceedings resume on Monday, where we anticipate clarity from the NPA on its decision to prosecute the men currently in the dock. Slinda Lamasigane, for Socceroos in Ekurhuleni.
Stay tuned to Week in One. Coming up, we'll be featuring some of the big interviews conducted by our anchors on eNCA this week.